As with many things in life, perfect timing is everything. The success or failure of your content can all come down to timing. Keep listening as I share how repurposing and distributing your content can achieve so much more if you are able to identify the perfect timing. You're listening to the Content 10x podcast, where it's all about content repurposing. I'm Amy Woods, and I'm here to help you maximize your content and find smart ways to get your message in front of more of the right people, whilst also saving time. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Content 10x podcast. I'm your host, Amy Woods, founder of specialist content repurposing agency Content 10x, and in this episode, I'm going to be talking about why the timing of your content can be a real game changer for its performance and how repurposing can save the day by giving your content a second chance or more at success. So I'm going to cover how to work out the best time to publish your content, if that's even possible, why it's okay to reshare your content at a different time and what to consider, and how social listening, newsjacking and content repurposing can go hand in hand. Okay, so let's dive in. Now, there's a lot of talk about when is the best time to post content, especially on social media platforms where user behaviour is constantly monitored in order to hack the best possible post performance and engagement. And timing is really an important factor for that. Now let's take Instagram for example. According to social media scheduling tool Later, the absolute best time to publish a feed post on Instagram is 6 a.m. on Sunday. But that's really confusing because according to competitor scheduling tool Sprout Social, the best time to post on Instagram is Tuesday between 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So that gets us nowhere, right? Two well-known and well-respected social media companies stating two entirely different times are the best for repurposing to Instagram. Now, the truth is, there are just so many different factors to consider when it comes to publishing at the right time. I mean, what different types of content does it relate to? What types of accounts? Are we talking personal or brand accounts? What audiences? And how are we measuring performance and engagement factors? What's success look like? So how can a broad study covering all of those things tell you the right time to publish content for your brand? It just can't. No study is going to be able to give you the best time to post your content to social media or your blog post or send your newsletter or publish your podcast episodes. It's something you have to trial and test yourself because your audience is completely unique, and so their behaviour around how they consume content on different platforms will be specific to them. Now, don't get me wrong, there might be some studies that give you a really good starting point. Maybe you discover that most people with the job description CEO in the tech space are on LinkedIn between 6 to 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. So that kind of information is useful if they're who you're trying to reach. But you still want to do some testing and figure it out for yourself. So to work out the best time to post your content, you need a lot of content. And this is why repurposing your content is so great. It gives you all the content you need to test what works and what doesn't. After all, content marketing is an ongoing optimization experiment, really. We're constantly testing and tweaking our processes to find out what works best for us. And having a range of content to choose from allows us to do that easily without adding too much extra work onto our plates. I highly recommend being flexible with your social media publishing schedules so that you can do this kind of testing with your content and find out what times get the best results for your content. So for example, if every week you create a long form video podcast and you repurpose it into 4 short social media videos that you share on LinkedIn, have a publishing schedule for the videos for LinkedIn where you're testing different days and times for a while, being consistent for a while across all 4 of those teasers you create to see what seems to work, and be sure to of course track what's going on so you can measure the impact. Now let's just move away from social media here, because this goes for other content too. For example, you might play around with what day of the week and what time your podcast goes live, or your blog post goes live, or your email goes out, etc. So firstly, a key point that I'm making here is with your core content, and especially your repurposed content, you can distribute it, test, gather the data, and then optimize distribution. Now the second point I want to make is this. Have you ever had a situation where you write an absolutely brilliant post, or you create the best meme or graphic or video ever? You can't wait to post it, and you'll see the hundreds of comments and likes and shares coming in. In fact, you're pretty sure it's going to go viral. It's probably going to break the internet. But instead, tumbleweed. Now this happens to us all, and you know what? There's a chance you just got it wrong, you misjudged, and it's not that great a piece of content. But also there's a chance it just was a case of bad timing. So in cases like this, it's okay to reshare the content again. In fact, if it's good content and evergreen content, which I'll come on to in a moment, then it's okay to reshare it. It doesn't have to be that piece of content that you thought was going to break the internet, but your good content can be reshared. Because you know what, on social media, only a small percentage of your followers see your content to begin with. And guess what? 0% of people who didn't know you when you first posted it saw that content. So it's okay to post again. Just allow some time. So for example, that insanely good post that got the tumbleweed, make a note, okay, so it bombed on LinkedIn at 6 p.m. on Sunday night. So damn it, that study that told me that was the best time, maybe it wasn't. Okay, so wait a month or two, assuming it's still relevant, and then post again, but this time post it at, for example, midday on Tuesday. So I'm sure you get the gist. Allow some time, post again, but make sure that you try a different time. So the second point I'm making here is it's absolutely okay to reshare content that you've shared already. But if you're hoping for a different reaction, then try different timing and experiment. Hey, just a little break from this podcast episode to ask you a question. Would you like one single place that you can go to that provides you with everything you need to be able to implement the best practices in content repurposing for your video content, your podcast episodes, and your social media content today? To help you get more value from the content that you create, get more time back, and help you reach more people than you ever thought possible. If so, then you are going to love the Content 10x Toolkit. The toolkit is full of video tutorials, templates, checklists, swipe files, step-by-step guides and more that shows you how to repurpose your content in the best ways possible today. No more Googling, no more figuring it out yourself. We provide you with everything that you need to become a content repurposing pro. If this sounds like something that would interest you, then go check out the Content 10x Toolkit at content10x.com/toolkit. Okay, and back to this week's episode. Okay, and moving on to my third point. Timing is about more than whether it's best to post the content in the morning or the afternoon. I also want to take a minute to talk about timing in terms of what's going on in the world and what trend you're seeing people take an interest in. So say you published a blog post called The Ultimate Guide to Being Highly Productive When Working From Home back in 2018. And then 2020 comes along and suddenly everyone's shifting to work from home. Well, wouldn't it make sense to reshare that blog post and maybe repurpose it into more new content? Because I'm sure it was useful in 2018 when you first posted it. But then in March, April 2020, it's absolute gold and insanely useful as the world is trying to adapt to working from home during lockdown. So that's just a great example of where timing can be everything, and bringing your content forward when the timing is right and maybe creating more repurposed content from it too would make perfect sense. Because if you've already got content that's relevant to current affairs or a trend or a topic that's being discussed in the media right now, then why would you not use that content to contribute to the conversation? Now, this is similar to newsjacking, where people talk about topics that are really popular in the news right now in order to gain attention and add to the conversation, hopefully in a really useful way. Now, we've all seen the newsjacking where, for example, a celebrity dies and then people start sharing their selfies of when they were with that celebrity to get noticed. And it might be relevant, etc. But I think as content creators, we can be conscious about how we do this newsjacking and we can add value to the conversation rather than just making noise in a crowd. I actually prefer a social listening method. So this is where I keep an ear to the ground about new and emerging trends and topics and then pair it with conscious content repurposing. This is where I think about what content I have that's highly relevant and how best to present it to my audience as part of this new topical conversation. This might mean revisiting the original content and making any necessary tweaks or updates, or repurposing it into some new shareable content, perhaps with a different angle or just pulling out select points that are now hyper relevant. That's absolutely key with timing. It's about being super relevant. You're going to miss all the amazing benefits of nailing the timing with your repurposed content if you're not seen as relevant to the conversation. So don't carelessly share something loosely related to the topic. Use your repurposing skills to pull the majorly relevant parts out. That might mean changing the format too, so creating short text-only social media posts, or perhaps adding graphics or carousels or bite-sized videos rather than linking back to the entire core content piece. But the best thing is you've done the work already. You've got some relevant content and it's now looking at how you can revisit that and then contribute to the conversation because it's a really hot topic at the moment, but add value by repurposing that content in a way that's going to make sense right now. Because one thing I love about content marketing is that piece of content you've created can last forever. And with every new piece you create, you contribute to your content library. So if you've got a creation and repurposing process, you're going to have so much content that's going to experience waves of relevancy that you can continue to share over time. Of course, you can only do this if your content is as evergreen as possible, as timeless as possible. Now, I know it's not always possible to create evergreen content, but if you can avoid adding details that age your content faster, I highly recommend it because you can pull and reshare evergreen content so quickly, allowing you to jump on trends and topical conversations at super speed. No new content required. Alright, that's all for this episode. I hope it's given you some food for thought about how, like all things in life, timing is everything, and that goes for your content too. Repurposing can massively help you with finding optimal times to publish, and by giving your content more than one chance to shine, and by giving your audience more than one chance to benefit from your awesome content. If you enjoyed this episode, then do make sure that you hit the follow button on the podcast listening app that you are listening to it. And also, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a rating and review. It makes a huge difference in helping other people to find the podcast and hopefully benefit from the episode that we have created already and will continue to create. I read every single review as well, and we share the reviews on social media, so I'd love to give a shout out to you on our social media platforms. And talking about social media, be sure to follow us. We're at Content10X on all the social platforms. If you need any help with your content repurposing, then don't hesitate to get in touch. We offer a fully done-for-you content repurposing service for video and audio content. All that's left to say is thank you so much for listening to this episode, and I will catch you in the next one.